Good afternoon, students. Welcome to YouTube live class for second year anthropology. We have already discussed about the Unit 1 as per the prescribed by the council. So, let us discuss Unit 2. So, under Unit 2, there are two parts. One is the study of fossil and the second one is the evolution. So, under the study of fossil, as per our course, fossils such as Australopithecene, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens sapiens. These are the sequence for the transitional stages of the human evolution. So we have to study sequentially, that is the Australopithecine. So Australopithecine is the stage of the human evolution, which was marked by the development of a culture that is based on the making and using of artifacts and tools. So Australopithecine, that is a group of fossils, they were merged into a group that is known as the Australopithecine. Generally, the Australopithecine, that is the Australopithecine group, as we know, that is the Australopithecine, that is the two types. Generally ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଦେଖୁଛନ୍ତି ତାକୁ Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus bossei, and Australopithecus robustus. So the two varieties, that is the three varieties, that is the Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus bossei, and Australopithecus robustus. These three varieties are under the study of our as per our course. So human evolution, which was very important for studying the physical anthropology as well as the biological anthropology. So without the studying of the human evolution, human variation, anthropology cannot conclude the biocultural evolution of the human being. So starting from the Pleistocene period to Holocene period. So if we go for the Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, Miocene, Pliocene, Pleistocene, then Holocene. This epoch, under this epoch, there are so many varieties of the ape-like man, other hominid evolutions were occurred. So on the basis of that, the earlier stage of the human that was developed during Pliocene, the late Pliocene, and at the initial stage of the lower Pleistocene, then come to the middle Pleistocene, then upper Pleistocene, and Holocene. So, as we know, the Homo habilis were developed during the lower Pleistocene period. Then Homo erectus, they were developed during middle Pleistocene period, and Homo sapiens or Neanderthalensis, they were developed upper Pleistocene, and Homo sapiens sapiens or modern man, they were developed during the post Pleistocene period, that is the Holocene period. So keeping in view of this evolutionary process of human beings, we have to justify the biological evolution as well as the cultural evolution simultaneously. How human beings were developed in different time periods, and what are the criteria for the human evolution, and how it was changed from time to time in context to different time period, how it was changed, and uh, how the environmental factor, how the genetic factor, and other biological factors affected the human life or they affected the life of the any animal, that can be studied scientifically and systematically in the human evolution. So evolution, variation are the two most important factors that can be studied under the physical anthropology. So, without the knowledge of the human evolution, we cannot trace the development of the human culture. So, there are the different stages, the transitional stages of the hominid evolution that are the Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens sapiens are the modern man. So, before that, there is the before the exact the hominid evolution. Before that, Egyptopithecus, Propliopithecus, Dryopithecus, Proconsul, Ramapithecus, then Australopithecus, then Homo habilis, then Homo erectus, then Homo sapiens or Neanderthalensis, then Homo sapiens sapiens or modern man, such as Cro-Magnon man. This. So these are the sequentially developed the hominid evolution in context to different environmental conditions, different time period. So, hominization, the hominid appear between Miocene Pliocene period, especially the transitional phases, especially the transitional phase in between the late Pliocene and the early Pliocene is regarded as the most valuable time in the history of the hominid evolution. So, hominid evolution is most important to know about the climatic factors of the during the ancient period. So, the earliest fossils having the characteristics of family Hominidae belong to the genus Ramapithecus group. It was also found during the Miocene epoch from 7 to 14 million years ago. The second genus that of the hominid category, that is the Australopithecus. These fossilized remains of Australopithecus have been dated 5 billion years ago and 1.5 billion years ago. So, the Australopithecine that is characterized by varieties of fossil remains that are found from different parts of Africa. That may be the particularly that is the South Africa and East Africa. Okay. So, Australopithecus was the earliest hominid. In course of time, hominids developed higher brains, learned to make tools, how to manufacture the stone tools that can be used in the life of the hominid, and how they prepare their food or how they produce their food and lived in a permanent settlement rather than the nomadic life. So that is the subject matter of the hominid evolution in context to the biological and cultural evolution. So, hominization is a process of evolution in which the emergence of human in context to other living beings. So, the hominization process, that is the hominization process in nature may be analyzed in the evolutionary transformation from pre-hominid to hominid types. Okay. So, the process concerns nature and adaptive significance of major anatomical and physiological transformation in the primitive, in the primate to single variable species, that is called as the Homo sapiens. As we know, there are so many types of animals or creatures that are classified under the group primate, under the order primate. So, human is also classified under the order primate. As we know, that is the class, that is the mammalia, order, that is the primate, then suborder Anthropoida, infraorder, that is Catarrhinae, superfamily, that is Hominoida, family, that is Hominidae, hominidie, and genus, that is the Homo species, that is the genus Homo, and species, that is the sapiens. So that is the classification of human being into the animal kingdom. So hominization is the process of evolution in which the emergence of human in contrast to other living beings. So the hominization process may be analyzed as the evolutionary transformation from pre-hominid to hominid status. So at the time of the pre-hominid stage, there was no hominid characters were found in case of the human being, in case of the animal. So some developed characters, particularly the hominid characters, were observed gradually in context to different time and period. So that the changes that have been occurred are categorized into two groups, that is the anatomical and physiological changes. The two changes, that is the anatomical and two changes, that is the anatomical changes and behavioral changes. The two important things that can be studied under the help of the anthropology. So anatomical changes, and another one is the behavioral changes. These two changes, behavioral changes, which ultimately lead to the ultimately develop the life pattern of the human. That is the anatomical changes, changes in the body structure in context to different anatomical feature, as well as changes in culture, behavioral pattern that can be studied through the help of the hominid evolution. Okay, so in contrast to this, uh, in contrast to this, the Australopithecene group can be classified into Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus robustus, and Australopithecus bossei, and that can be found within the 3 million to 2 million years ago. Australopithecus robustus found from 2 to 1 million years ago. Australopithecus afarensis, that is found 4 to 3 million years ago. So let us discuss the process of hominization. So that the anatomical and physiological changes that can be found, that can be observed or analyzed in the process of the human evolution. That is the anatomical changes. Various anatomical changes, changes in contrast to their long bones, in changes in the vertebral column, changes in the pelvic, changes in the foot structure, changes in the various anatomical features in contrast to the human beings, and physiological changes which can be observed in the process of the hominization. And the second one, that is the behavioral changes. So behavioral changes, the changes in context to different behavior, their acceptance, development of the culture, manufacturing the tool typology, manufacturers of these tools, development of the skills, development of their knowledge in different contexts. So how to an adaptative behavior towards the new environmental conditions, that are all are observed to the behavioral changes. And the most important thing, that is the bipedalism. And the bipedalism, that means bipedal, double pedal, जोटा कि हम होची दुईटी गोड़रे बा हमें चली पर human रो उटे peculiar character, that is the bipedalism, which can be observed in case of the hominid evolution. So it is the most important character of the human being, that is the bipedalism and erect posture. Bipedalism and erect posture. These two characters are studied under the process of hominization. And another thing, that is the bipedal, duty गोड़रे चली परिबो, दुईटी गोड़रे एमि सब जते सब एनिमल्स सेमान मध्यरो मनीष गोटे अन्यतम जोति से दुईटी गोड़रे चली परिबो. ओके, bipedal and erect posture, standing erectly. The anatomical structure has been structured in such a way that human being can stand erectly. Okay, so that is a bipedal. Okay, and the hand manipulation and use of tool. Human being is the only creature, only animal that can use the tool, manufacturing of the tool for their daily life. विभिन्न प्रकार अस्त्रशस्त्र निजे तैयारी करते निजर अस्त्रशस्त्र डेली लाइफ तैयारी करते सो दैट इज द कल्चरल इवोल्यूशन कैन बी स्टडीड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द हैंड मैनिपुलेशन एंड यूज हाथ को व्यवहार करी निजर टूल तैयारी करते दैट द ओनली वन होमिनिड कैरेक्टर ओके एंड द मॉडिफिकेशन ऑफ जॉ एंड टीथ मॉडिफिकेशन ऑफ जॉ एंड टीथ लोअर जॉ डेवलपमेंट ऑफ टीथ इन केस ऑफ मैन मॉडिफिकेशन ऑफ जॉ लोअर जॉ जोटा कि हमर एप मान क्षेत्र में बहुत हेवी देखा जाए এবং এই মডিফিকেশন জয়েন্ট টিথ প্যাটার্ন গুড়াক ধীরে ধীরে আমার as per our food pattern that can be developed as per our food pattern so jaw and teeth vertebral column रे हमर चारिटी रहउची गोटे हला thoracic lumbar pelvic ओके ई जो vertebral column टा हमर साधारणतः जनरली एस शेप हिची so that we can stand erect okay that is the vertebral column pelvic foot femur all are structured in such a way that we can found the hominid evolution in this context okay and another most important thing that is the enlargement of a brain which is also very important in case of the hominid evolution so development of a brain development of a cranial capacity development of a brain knowledge development of a skill is the peculiar character of the hominid and changes in the vocal tracts language development of language development is also important for the hominization process and development of speech as well as the stereoscopic vision the vision extraauricular vision that can be developed in case of hominization okay so the Australopithecene that is the fossil Australopithecene or the group of the fossils that were discovered from different parts of the Africa they are coming under a group that is known as the Australopithecene so the Australopithecene that is the meaning of Austral is south generally the meaning of Austral means that is the south because that fossils were discovered from the southern Africa plus South Africa and Pithecus means here जो एफटी हम जनरल साउथ रीजन बा साउथ अफ्रीका तक होइछन ताकू कहत ऑस्ट्रालोपिथेकस so Australopithecus is known as southern name Australopithecus is known as southern name having genus Australopithecus a group of extinct primates related to human but not the actual ancestor a group of primates they are related with the human being but not exactly they are the ancestor of the human being they are not the exactly the ancestor of the human being but they are the somehow related in the in case of the human being to the human being so its existence was known from the series of fossils found at numerous sites that the eastern northern central and southern Africa different parts of the East Africa South Africa there are so many fossils were discovered from different parts of the Africa that can be studied under the headings of the Australopithecine so different fossils that were discovered from different discovered sites of Africa that is the South Africa and East Africa that can be studied on the basis of that analytical way how a particular group of fossils they are coming under the Australopithecine group so they are human like but not exactly the ancestor of the human being okay so its existence was known from a series of fossils found at numerous sites eastern North Africa Central Africa and Southern Africa so they are existed between the about 4.2 million years to 1 million years ago okay 4 to 1 million years ago totally in the group of the Australopithecus during the Pliocene and Pleistocene epochs so at the end of the Pliocene at the starting phase of the initial stage of the Pleistocene that is the lower Pleistocene and ame janichanti already amar epoch is Paleocene Eocene Oligocene Miocene Pliocene Pleistocene and Holocene so after the end of the Pliocene and the initial stage the primary stage of the Pleistocene that is the lower Pleistocene okay so Pliocene Pleistocene e phase have developed generally Miocene then Pliocene then Pleistocene so Pliocene period re ei Australopithecine develop hi thai boli अनुमान करा जाउछ okay so most of all the fossils were comparing with the African apes as they have the large brain relatively reduced to molar teeth and limb bone all the fossils that were discovered from the African different parts of the Africa they compared with the African apes as why because of the having the large brain that is the most peculiar character or anatomical characters that is the large brain and relatively reduced to molar teeth so premolar molar teeth is amara 32 numbers of teeth in case of the human beings ଅଛି ହେଲା 2 1 2 3 that is the dental formula already हम सब ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି এবং এই যে molar teeth the reduced of the molar teeth and limb bone this is the peculiar characteristics of the fossils. So, however, they overlap with the earliest representations of Homo and are known as collectively as the Australopithecine. All these, because of these characteristics, because of these anatomical characteristics, all the fossils in generally the viewpoint, in general viewpoint, that can be coming under the group that is known as the Australopithecine. Okay. So, Australopithecine fossils recognizes one genus, that the Australopithecus, and two species. Australopithecus can be classified into two species. तार जेनस हला गोटे तार टू स्पीसीज गोटे होची स्लेंडर वेराइटी बा स्लेंडर ब्लीड आ गोटे स्मॉल इन फॉर्म हला गोटे स्लेंडर इन फॉर्म आ गोटे स्मॉल इन फॉर्म. सो ऑस्ट्रेलोपिथेकस अफ्रिकानस दैट इज द ग्रेशियल फॉर्म जोटा कि हम गोटे स्लेंडर फॉर्म ग्रेशियल फॉर्म एंड लार्जली रफली बिल्ट एंड ऑस्ट्रेलोपिथेकस रोबस्टस ओरिजिनली कॉल्ड एज द पारांथ्रोपस. ओके, सो दैट इज द टू द वेराइटीज ऑफ द ऑस्ट्रेलोपिथेकस अफ्रिकानस and Australopithecus bossei, Australopithecus probus. These are the varieties. So, Australopithecus africanus, that is the glacial type. Okay, and that is have the larger, roughly built, and Australopithecus robustus originally called as the Paranthropus robustus. Okay, Australopithecus robustus को मध्य हमें कोई बोलते हैं Paranthropus robustus. Okay, so on the basis of these anatomical characteristics, as we have classified the Australopithecine group into two varieties. One is the glacial type and another is the robustus type. Robustus. Okay, robust type. जोटा कि हम कहते हैं दुई प्रकार में ताको जेतो क्लासिफाई करते हैं on the basis of what? Now on the basis of the various anatomical traits. Various anatomical traits. Okay, these two varieties, one is the glacial variety and another robust variety, or robustus variety. So the cranial capacity of the glacial variety is in between the 450 to 660, and the same is also 400 to 660. And the cranial vault, which is high and expanded in case of the glacial type, and the robustus is the low placed. Okay, and the sagittal crest, which is absent in case of the glacial type, and it is present in case of the robustus type. And the frontal region, that is the rounded and developed in case of the glacial type, and it is underdeveloped in case of the robustus type. Okay, so another character trait, that is the position of occipital torus. Position of occipital torus, that is the low in case of the glacial type and relatively slightly higher in case of the robustus type. And the zygomatic region, these regions are zygomatic region. Okay, which is moderately large in case of the glacial type and massive in case of the robustus type. And the mastoid process, that was found in the skull, mastoid process, which is developed slightly in case of the glacial type and not developed in case of the robustus type. Okay, and the supraorbital lesion, which has no development in case of the glacial type and which is very large in case of the robustus type. And the temporal fossa, which is medium sized in case of the glacial type and which is very large in the robustus type. Okay. And another characteristic, that is the foramen magnum, which was present in the that is a anatomical trait, foramen magnum, which is forwardly placed in case of the glacial type and which is more forwardly placed in case of the robustus type. Okay, foramen magnum, that was found in the skull. So the jaw, which is large and prognatous in case of the glacial type and the massive and less prognatous in case of the robustus type. So pelvis and long bones, which is hominid type, the glacial types are the hominid type, that is the pelvis and bones hominid type from a glacial type also the, and a combination of gorilla, जोटा कि हम greatest gorilla and hominidic, the combination of the gorilla and hominid type. These two characteristics that are found in the mixed characteristics that are found in the robustus case. Okay, so these are the varieties, that is the Australopithecus, that is the robustus type and another one the glacial type. There is a difference why some fossils are coming under the glacial type and why other fossils are coming under the robustus type. These are the classification on the under the basis of the different anatomical traits that were observed in the different fossils that were discovered from different parts of the Africa. Okay, so let us discuss about the general features of the Australopithecine. So, as we know, Australopithecus was terrestrial bipedal ape-like, which is a terrestrial, lived in the land, terrestrial, that is a lived in land, land रे से बसवास करे, and it is a bipedal, दुईटी गोड़ रे चले, bipedal ape-like animal, that had a large chewing teeth, so large chewing teeth with the thick enamel tongue. Okay, And Australopithecus afarensis used stone tools. That was the symbol of the cultural evolution in different contexts. So the biocultural evolution that can be also found with as attached with the Australopithecine group. So the Australopithecus africanus used stone tools. That is the stone tools as well as the bone tools were also used by the Australopithecus group. Okay, and as well as they consumed meat and food. They were the food gatherers and hunters, scavengers, and having small social life. They were the scavengers, they were the hunters, they were the food gatherers. Okay, and the food collection is also was also another criteria for their cultural evolution. Okay, so Australopithecines are an adaptive radiation of early hominids, all of which to some extent were bipedal and had slightly larger brain than others. Somehow they are bipedal in nature. They are the not exactly bipedal, but they follow the bipedal traits. That is the bipedal traits are slightly larger brain than others. Okay. So these were the general characteristics, and let us discuss about the skeletal features or anatomical features of the Australopithecine group. Okay, so Australopithecine had big teeth and small brain. Australopithecine had the big teeth and small brains in comparison to the man. In comparison to man, that the big teeth and small brains than man in comparison to man. So it had small incisor and canines relatively to their body weight. Okay, canines, small canines, incisor, and in comparison to their body weight. So their mandible is thick and short, and ventrally located foramen magnum. Ventrally located foramen magnum, which is very important. Ventrally located foramen magnum, which is associated with the bipedal character. ये जो ventrally located foramen magnum जोगु ये Australopithecine was the bipedal animal. It is the intermediate between those of living apes and humans. Generally, it has been treated that living apes and humans is the intermediate stage in between the living ape as well as the humans. Okay. So various fossils that were discovered from different parts of the South Africa, East Africa. So let us discuss about the fossils that were discovered from the South Africa. From the Twang, that the Australopithecus africanus, which was discovered by Raymond Dart in 1924-25, and Chromatography the Paranthropus, that is discovered by the Robert Broom in 1938, and these are the most important. Okay, and the fossils from East Africa, that was also the most important site, that is the Hadar. The Australopithecus afarensis, that is the Lucy, which was a female fossil, Lucille, just discovered by C. Johansson in 1974, and the bed one of Old Wygott of East Africa. That from that particular place, Australopithecus bosei or Giganthoropus, the fossil discovered from East Africa, that is from the bed one of Old Wygott, bed one of the Old Wygott. So that is the Australopithecus bosei ami taku koi parchuni ba Giganthoropus bosei kuchuni, jota ki LSB Leakey in 1959 re taku discover karchanti. Okay, and some Homo habilis fossils also discovered from the bed one of Old Wygott, that is from 1964. So let us discuss about the varieties. That is ami ta kaichanti broadly taku duita variety kaichanti, gote la glacial type, gote la robustus type. So under the Australopithecine group, that is some fossils, important fossils that were discovered from different sites that can be described. So the most important fossil, that is the Australopithecus africanus. Okay, so Australopithecus africanus, the Australopithecus now recognized on one genera Australopithecus and two species. I am already कहूँ गोटे glacial form रे, गोटे solar form रे. So Australopithecus robustus, जेटा कि गोटे largely हेची, याको discover करते 1924 रे Raymond Dart. Okay, so the findings was includes a part of कौन से समय discover जेतो हेइतिला Raymond Dart 1924-25 रे जेतो discover करिथिले, सेतो findings कौन थिले? A part of mandible, facial skeleton, endocrinal parts of face child, एगुडा सब मिलिथिला, and the remaining findings are 20 milli मिलिथिला, and 4 first molars were in the skull. से skull जो मिलता है 20 milk teeth और 30 and 4 first molars मिलता है. Okay, and the geological time, that is the middle Miocene to upper Pliocene. that the हमें ताको मध्य कहउछन Miocene Pliocene age. ताको मध्ये हम कहते मायोसिन प्लायोसिन एज. Okay, so the anatomical characteristics of the Australopithecus africanus, that was the skull has a small brain case and larger brain case lacks high vertical forehead, but the bone feature it contrasts the fungi character. Bone characteristics যদি আমি ଯିବା তাহলে Australopithecus को it contrast to the fungi character and matches with the hominidae. It is more hominidae than the fungi. The more hominidae in nature. So the size of the cranium and facial portion is just like a chimpanzee. Here facial portion of cranium ର size of facial portion যদি আমি দেখিবা এটা হচ্ছে more resemblance with the chimpanzee. Okay, that is the greatest chimpanzee. So the premaxilla is well developed, flat nasal bone resemble that of chimpanzee. So the character chimpanzee character गुड़ाक आमे मध्य एथिरे Australopithecus africanus आमे पाऊ. Okay, then face is prognathoc. The facial skeleton is however large in relation to the brain case. Diastema is present in the upper jaw between the lateral incisor and the canine. Okay, cranial capacity is roughly estimated as the 520 cc, which is very important. 520 cc, that is the cranial capacity. Okay, and high arched forehead, faint supraorbital edges. The faint is supraorbital edges, the faint supraorbital edges, and anteriorly placed foramen magnum. So that the bipedal character or hominid character were developed as per the skeletal remains. Okay, then the occipital torus and the inion occupy a low level as in hominid skull. Occipital condyles forward in position. Mastered process, that is the mastered regions, are sufficiently well preserved, and there is a well marked pyramidal process typical of the hominid form. Generally, this hominid form, so that is the more resemblance with the hominid forms that can be analyzed. So the eyebrow ridges or the brow ridges are poorly developed compared to that of ape. Ape मान क्षेत्र टिका अधिक develop होता है. Okay, so the zygomatic arcs are expanded and flared. The jaw are also relatively large. So these anatomical characteristics were found in the Australopithecus africanus, that was described by the Raymond Dart in 1924-25. Okay, and that is the Australopithecus africanus. Then come to the Australopithecus bushei. Otherwise, it is known as the Zinanthropus. So Australopithecus bushei, this fossil was dated into 1.8 million years ago. 1.8 million years ago, and it was the first African hominid. आपको हमें कहते हैं प्रथम African hominid, Australopithecus bushei, जोटा कि होती है Zinanthropus. So the male generally weighed about 49 kg, and the height was 1.4 meters, and the female have the 34 kg, and the weight was 1.1 meter, and the brain volume is about the 530 cc in average. In average, that is the 530 cc. So the old wise specimen, that is the Australopithecus bushei. Okay, that is sometimes called as nutcracker man. Okay, it is very important. Okay, and they were able to make stone tools. as the Australopithecus africanus क्षेत्र में हम देखिछन जे stone tool को तैयारी करि पारुचे और stone tool को manufacture और व्यवहार कोन करि पारुचे. as the Australopithecus bushei, that is the old way god जोटा को पाइछन से मध्य to manufacture the stone tools, and they had the culture. And they could communicate simple ideas of sound and was the food gatherer. They were the food gatherer. They can communicate the language, communicate with the others by simple language. Okay, which is also a hominid character. So हमें ताको कोड पाइछन discovery and findings कोड पाइछन. Louis S. B. Leakey made the first discovery of hominid fossils from the bed one of Olduvai Gorge from the East Africa in 1950. L. S. B. Leakey made the first discovery of the hominid fossils from the Olduvai Gorge in 1900, East Africa, Olduvai Gorge, from the East Africa 1959, which is very important. Okay, so the first discovery named as the Zinanthropus bushei, later known as the Australopithecus bushei. प्रथमे ताको कहते Zinanthropus bushei, तापर लास्ट पर ताको आइडेंटिफाई करलो Australopithecus bushei, and considered as a super robust Australopithecus. Okay, so at that time a complete skull without mandible and a larger part of the tibia were discovered from that particular Olduvai Gorge by the L. S. B. Leakey. Okay, So this Australopithecus belongs to the lower Pleistocene period. Lower Pleistocene period. Okay. Miocene Pliocene ରୁ start ହେଇଛି Miocene Pliocene ଯେହେତୁ Australopithecine group ଟାକୁ ମୁଁ develop କରୁଛି ଏବଂ ଏଟା come to the Miocene Pliocene to lower Pleistocene period. Okay. So the cranial capacity was probably 600 cc and the post-orbital constriction is marked. The interorbital region is of enormous in size. Face is long and broad. Face is long and broad. Facial and zygomatic portion of maxilla are large in nature. Palate is high. Nasal bones are long and narrow. Nasal bones are long and narrow. And the dental series is irregular without premaxillar diastema. Okay, and the premolars and molars are large. Teeth pattern, the premolars and molars, the teeth pattern that is very large, which is directly related to their food pattern. Directly related to their food pattern, and is also related to the hominid type. So the mastoid process is well developed. That is also a characteristic of the hominian character. That the mastoid process. Okay. Mastoid process, that is also important. Premolars and molars are very large. Dental series is irregular. Palate is high. Nasal bones are long and narrow. Face is long and broad. Okay. Post-orbital constriction is marked. 600 cc cranial capacity. Foramen magnum is situated more anteriorly, which is the hominid character. More anteriorly hominid character. Posteriorly ape character. Okay. So probably walk erectly or standing erectly. Standing erectly. सीधा ठिया ही करियो. Okay. So let us discuss about the Australopithecus robustus. I mean discussion kale Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus bossei, then come to the Australopithecus robustus. Okay. So Australopithecus robustus was discovered by Robert Broom. Discovered by the Robert Broom. So from the South Africa in 1938 and named the fossil as the Paranthropus robustus. ताकू मध्य से कहउछन्ती Paranthropus robustus. का Australopithecus robustus मध्य Paranthropus robustus was. So he noted his hominin feature as well as various chewing apparatus, chewing patterns of the hominid can be described to the Australopithecus robustus. So the geological period, that is the middle Pleistocene period. Okay. Australopithecus robustus lived from 2.0 to 1.0. It is lower ru start heji up to middle portion heji. Okay. So the anatomical characteristics of the Australopithecus robustus, that is the morphological pattern of robustus type. Australopithecus exhibits some gorilla type. Se thila chimpanzee type. Ye hala gorilla type. तो ये रोबस्टस टा होची मोर गोरिल्ला टाइप. ओके. गोरिल्ला मध्ये होची गोटे एफ हला जेतेला Australopithecus africanus तला मोर चिंपांजी टाइप. So it was similar to bossei and also had an average brain size, that is the 500 average. In average रे तो हमें 530 cc cranial capacity. So this was physically smaller. Males weighed about 40 kg and stood 1.3 meters. And female have the 32 kg and the average in average stood 1.1 meter. So the name robustus referred to its relatively heavily built jaw, lower jaw that both heavily built है. Teeth and supporting anatomical structure, lower jaw of the fossil. This suggested about the robustus variety. So its brain size was relatively larger than that of the earlier South African Australopithecus. आगु जति सब South African रू मिली जो fossils ता तुलना रे its brain size was relatively more larger. Okay. And skull is larger than Australopithecus. Cranial capacity was 450 to 660. That's the range. Lower brain to body weight and body size ratio, that is than the African. And a large supraorbital ridges. It am paitile faint supraorbital ridges. It is a large supraorbital ridges. Large supraorbital ridges. Okay. And the cranium vault is not well rounded and expanded. Sagittal crest has moderate development. zygomatic region जोटा कि हम देखुछंती and जो are massive in nature, foramen magnum जोटा कि हम पाउछंती स्कल ले एवं ये foramen magnum and occipital condyles are slightly more forwardly placed than in the skull base. Dentition is unbalanced. Dentition pattern, that is the unbalanced. Dentition pattern is unbalanced. Teeth are arranged in parabolic dental artery. Parabolic dental artery সেটা teeth গুলো arrange হয়েছে, which is slightly more U-shaped, more than U-shaped. Okay, and their hand skeleton, হাতার skeleton ওটা indicates করছে knuckle working. Not exactly bipedal, knuckle working. Okay. So their locomotion or movement pattern that is varied between a cube bipedalism to sporadic knuckle working. जोटा कि हमें पहुंचती exactly that they were not the bipedal. That is the intermediate stage of the bipedalism to by crude bipedalism to sporadic knuckle working. It was the intermediate phase. Okay. So in addition to a well-developed skull crest for the attachment of the temporal muscles, which is used in chewing, other attributes for strong chewing includes huge cheek teeth, massive jaw, okay, and powerful built cheekbones. Massive jaw milchi, powerful cheekbones milchi, okay, and a project forward. These features make the skulls of the robuster type, which is different from those of the modern humans. These characteristics, somehow different can make the differently from other animals. Okay. Then another variety of the under this group, that is the Australopithecus afarensis. ଆମେ ତିନୋଟି ଫସିଲ ପଢିଲେ, ଗୋଟେ Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus bossei, Australopithecus robustus. Another variety, that is the Australopithecus afarensis, which was discovered by Donald Johansson. Man reko pila mane, by Donald Johansson, D. Johansson, at the site of the Hada in the upper desert region of the northern Ethiopia, in 1974, which is popularly known as Lucy. That is a female fossil. Lucy. So its age was estimated about 3 million to 4 million years ago. 3 million to 4 million years ago. And it was an erect and bipedal creature. Now erect posture madhya am paudhile and bipedal locomotion madhya ame setire Lucy pakhare paudhile. And the cranial capacity was approximately 440 cc. It was a large canine. She was 3.5 to 4 feet tall. Okay, 3.5 to 4 feet tall. And Lucy resembles that of the modern chimpanzee. ये मध्य modern chimpanzee बड़ी ये देखा जाए. But the characteristics modern chimpanzee is the suitable resemblance. Okay, so these are the fossils that after the discovery of these fossils, from the East Africa, from the South Africa, we concluded that generally Australopithecine was developed from the Pliocene to Lower Pleistocene period. Okay, so bipedalism is one of the most important characters that somehow we also found the bipedalism character or hominid character. In some cases, we also found the hand manipulation pattern, that is the through which tools can be prepared or manufactured and tools can be used for their daily needs. That is the most important characteristics of the Australopithecus bossei or Gigantopus, that was described by or discovered by LSB Leakey in 1959 from Olduvai gods of East Africa. Okay, so hand manipulation pattern and use of tools, that is the most important thing. Okay, and the modification of lower jaw and modification of teeth, which is also described about their food pattern, their environmental conditions, their food pattern, their dentition pattern, which is in course of the line of the human evolution, that can be developed in the line of the human evolution. So we have to analyze on the basis of the dentition, on the basis of the hand skeleton, on the basis of the anatomical feature, and the presence of the development of the foramen magnum, the development of the pelvic, development of the vertebral column, size and shape of the vertebral column. That all are the criteria of the hominid evolution, but particularly in that cases, that is the some fossils that are related with the modern chimpanzee, and that and some fossils that was also related to the gorilla type, and on the basis of that we have to classify these fossils into Australopithecine group. Okay, so Australopithecine, that is the two varieties. One is the robustus variety, and another one is the glacial type. So glacial type and robustus type. So on the basis of their anatomical feature, on the basis of their physiological structure, on the basis of their cultural development, and on the basis of these factors, archaeologists and the paleontologists or the biologists, they classified these fossils into Australopithecine group. Okay, that is the glacial type, and another is the robust type. Okay, thank you.